All right, we are back with another live stream. It's Friday. I thought maybe I would get to one on Wednesday or Thursday. It didn't happen. I was doing my taxes this week, and my taxes are done. So that's good. And it cleared up a lot of questions. I never like to move forward with certain things until my taxes are done. I'm always paranoid that Uncle Sam's going to be like, hey, you owe whatever, X number of dollars, and they're just going to blindside me with something. And then I'm going to be like, oh crap, well, I just spent a couple $1,000s on more rosaries for sale on Iconic Comics, something along those lines. And I don't want to do that. So I typically hold off. So I was like, no, I got to get my taxes done. Clear that off the plate. Once that's done, I can move forward. Okay, now I know that I could pay Matt Weldon what he deserves for Soulfinder Volume 5. I don't need to worry about that. So getting all the financial stuff in place. Got the hard covers for Soulfinder Volume 4 that I got to print. I got to print the soft covers for Volume 4. I got to print the soft covers for Noctis Terrores when that comes out. So everything's the ball keeps moving faster and faster, and I got to make sure that I get ready. And so, but we made time on Friday here to catch up a little bit. At some point in time, we'll talk about the Texas border situation. Interesting stuff. That's the only political thing that I really want to talk about this week. Other than that, I just wanted to show a preview from Soulfinder Noctis Terrores. I don't know. My Latin is not so hot. I apologize for that, but translates into night terrors. So Bill Williams, he completely finished with Soulfinder Volume 4 lettering. The only thing is I have to go through it and I have to make sure there's no typos that, somehow escaped my set of eyes and every other set of eyes that have looked at these things. Like I have to have my wife take a look because your brain knows what is supposed to be there. So when you're reading it, even if you're trying to read it closely, sometimes it's like your brain just fixes it or something. You still miss typos. So at least I do. And so I have to go very slowly, bubble by bubble, and try and break it down, make sure there's nothing in there. But in general, Bill could probably do the digital file today if he wanted. I could throw it up on Amazon and I would be happy with it. I don't know, but there's probably one or two little typos that kind of got through the cracks. So we'll try and fix those. Brett Palmer, thanks for tuning in. AL, thanks for tuning in. Anyway, Bill, he completed that, and now he is doing the short stories, Noctis Terrores, and that is very short. So he told me that he should probably finish it up this weekend sometime. And then again, I'll go over for typos and that, or little tweaks here or there. And it's interesting because as you go through these, as you see it take shape, so with Volume 4, for example, there were a couple little parts where I was like, oh, I think there should be a thought balloon right there. And I think it's clear, and I think most readers will get it, but there's going to be a population where I think maybe I should just kind of, put a little spotlight on something and say like, okay, this is boom. And it'll be natural to the story. It won't seem forced. It won't seem weird. But if I put a little thought bubble right here, it'll actually add to the story. And so, or there, every once in a while I'll be like, I think there should be a sound effect here, and there's not. And so here and there, I've been finding little things. Each book is a learning experience. Anyway, so here's a preview of what's to come. I'm at the point now where now I got to just do the credits page. I got to get the barcodes on the back cover. I got to get the title on the front cover. And oddly enough, those are kind of the most annoying parts for me because the book is done and now it's all these little doodads and it's like I'm a writer and it's just not my thing. And I don't know. So it's like this part right here, just tying those last little pieces together. And I got to write the afterword for Volume 4. I like to have it all done. And then after I see the final product, I revisit it, think about it. Time has elapsed. Okay. And now I'm going to write a little afterwards. Then I got to get that done. And it's just those last couple yards are just kind of the longest and the most annoying sometimes. But we are almost there. Anyway, as I was saying, I think it was last week's stream, I like that I am able to show some of the writing and let people see what's going through my head, what the story's about. I could talk about it in detail, and it's just one more way that you could sell your product to people, because if you don't have the writing out there, then it's just like you're a salesman. You're just like, no, take my advice. I promise you that this baby purrs. This engine is going to sound excellent. And, maybe some people might be okay with that. They might be okay going to the car dealership and only looking at it and taking the dealer's word for it. Hopefully you have an honest dealer, but you might not. So I try to be as transparent as possible with people, and I think that pays off. So here we go. Here is a preview from the short story, Soulfinder, Noctis Terrores, art by Eric Canetti. I wanted to establish that rest is something Soulfinders do not really experience. A reader might think Father Redder's biggest battles occur when he is performing exorcisms, but the truth is that he is relentlessly attacked. He is demonically under siege in his most private moments, and he must fight even while sleeping. Blackfire obsessively seeks to punish any priest who willingly enters into the Order of Soulfinders. Similarly, a priest's friends and loved ones faced extra attention by Blackfire and his minions. So this is one of those things where with the short stories, I can't just put this into a random story. It would be a weird sidetrack. But I like these short stories because they can serve as a bridge between stories. You could put them like almost anywhere, and they both add to the overall Soulfinder universe, or whatever you want to call it, iconic universe, commonality, since that's tied together. But it doesn't need to be that long, but it could still be a poignant tale if I do it correctly. It could add to the character. People could be like, oh, I didn't know that about the Soulfinders. Oh, you have this new thing called the Noctis Terrores, where it's a dream, but it's not a dream. It's basically like a lucid dream. But so here we go. We have Blackfire. I'm not going to read in Blackfire's demonic voice. But Blackfire says in this little preview here, he says, if the pain feels real, it's because it is real. You're not dreaming, Patrick Redder. This is something far different. The night terrors have just begun. Noctis Terrores, then obviously Redder's like Blackfire. Blackfire says, this is what you signed up for, Soulfinder. We will crash the gates of your imagination every night for the rest of your life. The symbolism here affects objective reality. Your detective friend, Gregory Chua, is dead because you've killed him. He just doesn't know it yet. You enlisted him in this war. You brought him onto this battlefield, and he will perish for it. So I'm hoping by giving people, a glimpse into what they'll be purchasing, hopefully, they could be like, oh, this sounds kind of cool. All right, I see where he's going. I see what he's cooking, like the rock, and it smells pretty good. I want to check this out. So I wanted to convey this idea that the Soulfinder, like you think like, oh, I just read Infinite Ascent. I really liked where he was going with that. That was a crazy mission. He finally gets home. He's been gone for weeks or months or whatever it's been. He rests. He lies down in his bed. He closes his eyes. Oh, he's going to get a really good night's sleep tonight. No. In fact, he might even have a bigger battle when he finally gets home and he thinks he's going to rest. He's like, oh, man, I got to go. I am so tired, man. And then he closes his eyes, and immediately he's in this landscape, and Blackfire is messing with him again, and he's telling him, hey, guess what? Your friend, Detective Chua, that guy that you suckered him into this mission in Infinite Ascent? Yeah, all right. Well, now we're going to mess with that guy, and we're going to mess with his family. Satan was already going to mess with him anyway, but now we're going to give him extra scrutiny, and we're going to just keep hammering this guy until he falls into the abyss, pun intended. So then Redder's got to deal with that while he's sleeping. Then he wakes up the next morning and he's got to go to work again. So he's got to do all the normal things that a priest does, but he's constantly under siege by these demons all the time. Now, Jean, who is a very nice lady, mentioned, she's like, how does he not go crazy? And then my answer was, short answer, his faith in Christ. The longer answer is it's addressed in Soulfinder Noctis Terrores. You'll have to check it out. But here's the thing. On another level, I would argue that the reader is Father Redder, because all of us face temptations every day, and those very much occur outside and inside the home. The message is one of our need for constant vigilance in prayer. So it's kind of paradoxical. I was telling like another person, like, yeah, you would think because he's under constant attack all the time, it would just be slowly driving this guy insane because he can't seem to rest. But the constant attacks mean that he must constantly be in a state of prayer. And then paradoxically, that prayer allows him to withstand the constant, not only just withstand the attacks, but he also becomes a calmer person. He's more relaxed, and he's in fact saner than he would otherwise be if he wasn't under constant attack and maybe he was like sloughing off on his prayer life or whatever. So the message is that constant prayer, when you wake up in the morning, when you're eating your lunch, whatever meal you're eating, when you're going to bed at night, say a little prayer, formal or informal, and that helps you stay sane. So Father Redder, as a Soulfinder, just experiences an exaggerated version of what everybody else does, experiences every day. So your normal person, they might, who knows what they might have their own mental illnesses, or they might have their own temptations or their physical ailments or whatever that follow them throughout the day, and they're tempted to lose hope. They're tempted to turn away from Christ. However you want to word it, it's exactly the same as Father Redder. And so for me, I want the reader to be like, okay, how does this pertain to my life? And okay, my fiercest battles, my fiercest spiritual battles, they don't occur in front of other people. They actually occur in my bedroom at night when I'm alone with my thoughts and I have to think about who knows what. I was ostracized as a child, or my parents weren't good parents, or maybe they were pretty good parents, but they were flawed parents, or my sibling is in jail for murder, and how do I sort that out? Or I have a sibling who's a drug addict, or I suffer from depression or anxiety, or I got heart disease, or who knows? You could just keep going down the list. And so these are all things people have to struggle with privately, and they are constantly attacked as well. And so again, my message is constant prayer. A healthy prayer life involves praying throughout the day, and then obviously before you go to bed at night, and those sorts of things. So that is how Father Redder can stay sane. Brett Palmer, under constant attack. Yes. Richard the Fox, does a Soulfinder ever get a good night's sleep then? So I would say that, again, you also have to be aware that demons are liars, but then also they can be attacking, the gates, whereas he says, we will crash the gates of your imagination every night for the rest of your life. They might be crashing the gates, but God could also prevent them from getting through the gates. So there are nights where the demons can only do what God permits them to do. And if God does permit them to crash the gates, it's because God is giving Father Redder an opportunity to grow in virtue and actually to deal them an even bigger, a crushing defeat to the demons. So they could be crashing the gates all night, but Father Redder's guardian angel, Saint Michael, Christ, it's all through Christ, but whatever. Christ, Our Lady could be saying like, basically putting up a barrier that protects him and gives him a nice night's sleep. But the threat is still there, and it's put in, like, you can see that, no, they actually are attacking him one way, that they are very, very interested in trying to find a way to screw with him for the rest of his life. They're sending the message, and they know that he has this friendship that's growing with Detective Chua, and they're like pretty close dudes or whatever, and they've been on a mission together overseas. They've been through a lot together. It's kind of like your battle buddy, or you're in the foxhole. He's been in the spiritual foxhole with Detective Chua now, and they're very close. And now the demons are saying, like, yeah, you're a priest, but this guy, he's just Detective Chua. He's just one of the lady, essentially. And you can't watch him all the time. You can't be there to get him out of trouble. And on top of everything else, we're going to attack him in many ways, just like we're attacking you. And so that obviously is going to mess with his head, because you're human. And so these are the little things. I was like, man, I can do this in a short story, but I can't do this. It would be much harder to find a way to work it into a longer story. And then on top of that, I have to, respect Matt Weldon's time. Thank God Eric Canetti was just like, able to work on this and willing to do it. And we have an awesome relationship, both a friendship and a business relationship as well. And I think I mentioned it in the past. We also have an Arc Athena short story coming out that's Heavy Gun Havoc. I won't tell you the actual title, but some of you, I want to say the first person that comes to me and says something very specific about the title and what it's tied to, or if I'm giving a hat tip to anybody, there might be a Doug prize going on with individuals that get what's going on with the title. So there's that. All right. Let's see. AL, this sounds like it's going to be an awesome story. I hope so. I'm happy with the way that it's coming together. And Bill Williams and Eric have done a great job, and the color work is awesome. So yeah, everything is just coming together really nicely. And now it's just, like I said, getting with the printers. And yeah, that's I was telling someone yesterday, it's like when all this gets done, you feel like you're in a football game. You ran into the end zone, you scored a touchdown, but then somebody says, no, actually you got to run 20 more yards down the field, and then it will count. And you're like, what? And so that's what the printing element of all of this feels like to me. So anyway, if you think it looks cool, I appreciate it. And I will do my best to lower the price point. I know the economy is kind of weird right now. Not kind of, it is weird. It is super shaky, inflation and all of that. So I will try and figure out a way to get the price point down for people, especially early on. And but it is a short story, so it's not very long, but I think you'll get what I'm going for. Similarly, I want to thank Mike from Tomes. I don't know if you subscribe to Tomes, anyone who's tuned in right now, but Mike did a video earlier today on Soulfinder and the upcoming stuff, and he was talking about how he started reviewing Soulfinder before he even knew anything about me. And long story short, let's see if I could just get to the heart of it here.
That you see. And so that's part of the reason why I support Soulfinder. I appreciate that it is what it is. But with the iconic guys and several other aspects here, you cannot look past the fact that when a creator treats the people who are reviewing their books well, and engages with the criticism or engages with the interaction, that just does a world. I can't stress that enough. So if you are a creator and someone interacts with your book and you repost it and you talk to them and show them what's coming up next, that does worlds for just brand loyalty.
All right, so sometimes I see people across social media and they don't seem to understand why Iconic Comics seems to resonate with people. And I think this is part of the puzzle. It's one piece to a larger puzzle in that Mike didn't even know really who I was or, too much. He just, for whatever reason, he got Soulfinder. It looked up his alley. He says on, Twitter, this is public. I'm not disclosing any private information. He's a preacher. So obviously the spiritual elements resonated with him. Checks out Soulfinder, does a review of it. And then I guess back in the day, I responded to his review in a way where it was just like, I appreciated that he took time to review it. And, it was a nuanced review. It wasn't just like, oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in the world, blah, 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 blah. No, he actually had all sorts of points about it and things that could be improved and yada, yada, yada. And I didn't go off the handle at him. I didn't whatever. And so he liked it enough to continue to read. And then his quote unquote brand loyalty grew from there. So, again, if people are reviewing your work and you don't like the things that they say, if they give it a negative review, you always have the option of just not saying anything. When in doubt, when it comes to people that are reviewing your work, take a step back, don't say anything, or just say, thank you for taking the time to review my work. I appreciate it. I will take what you said into consideration. Boom. And if they're one of these people that are just like, oh, it sucks, it's the worst thing ever, don't want to blah, 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 blah. And you're just like, oh, this is just a guy who has an axe to grind. He obviously doesn't like me. Then you need to have faith that most people will see through that. They will, and if they don't, in my mind, if they're dumb enough to believe somebody that just clearly has it out for you and your work, and they just want to tear it to shreds or whatever, then you probably don't want to be spending too much time trying to flip them over to the other side, because they're wishy-washy and they're going to be all over the place. You want to be trying to concentrate on people that have a good head on their shoulders and they're trying to look at things objectively. Captain Cummings, thanks for tuning in. VMRE, thanks for tuning in. So again, check out Mike's channel if you get a chance. And Mike, thanks again for checking out Soulfinder. Appreciate it. So, all right. So that gets to, let's see, another thing I was saying here. Because I see this popping around social media. Here we go. One of the things I like seeing across social media is the occasional observation by people who say Iconic Comics is playing long ball. I appreciate it when readers notice iconic creators doing the little things consistently and over time, which builds a solid foundation of trust. All right. It can be frustrating to have a conversation with someone who seems to have short-term blinders on and doesn't get your broader vision, but those who do get it, I am super grateful for those individuals. And those individuals most likely are actually watching right now. VMRE, Captain Cummings, AL, Brett, Richard the Fox, Brett Palmer, all of you. I would put you into that category where you kind of get what we're doing, and I appreciate that. AL, you need to have discernment to know when to interact and when not to. So yeah, that's the other thing with playing the quote unquote long ball on social media, is it's double-edged sword, is you could have one bad day. That's the one thing that kind of bothers me sometimes. Like, you see people, and if you have one bad day, one bad interaction with them, there are people who years ago, from when I was at a newspaper, they had one bad interaction with me. And speaking of people with like issues, but I said something to them that obviously struck some sort of deep nerve or something. And to this day, they will go about social media saying that I am the worst person in the world and I suck and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, I had like 2 interactions with you. Like, what? Are you real? Like, that is very bizarre. I didn't even swear at you. I didn't do, if anything, I like just sort of like laughed off the person. And it's like, they were so mad. And every once in a while, I'll see these people. I was like, geez, like, but that's the interesting thing about social media, where you have to be very, very careful about what you say, because some of these people, they're on autopilot in terms of their hate towards you. If you say the wrong thing, So over time, I have learned that, you know, for the most part, if somebody is angry, just let them blow off their steam. Don't get involved, because if you think that you're pouring water on the fire, you might be pouring gasoline. And most of the time, it's going to be very hard to put out that. Just let them extinguish themselves. Don't give it oxygen, and they will eventually, the fire will go out on its own if you just kind of just take a step back. Edwin, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Captain Cummings, many people on social media read the worst into almost every. Yeah, you have to look for the people that are. I was actually, before I came on today's stream, I was talking to a friend of mine about individuals who they are always waiting to believe the worst in you. They are always willing. It's like they want to ascribe the worst motivations to anything you say. Like, they don't really like you that much, and they're just waiting. And even if it's not you, it's somebody else says like, "Hey, Doug Ernst, blah, 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 blah." And they're like, "I knew it. I knew that guy. There was something wrong with that guy." Aha. They're just waiting to latch on to like anything. So let's see. I think Tomes. Oh, Black Ops 6 fulfillment. Let's see. Am I on the Father Redder feed? Yes, I went back to there. So let's go to the Doug feed. Where is it? Timothy Lim, Mark Pellegrini. If you backed Black Ops Volume 6, fulfillment is underway. So you can see it's got the bubble wrap going on. Got the Common America thank you card. So yeah, a lot of people have already reviewed the crossover at the end of the year, the Antarctic, iconic Antarctic crossover. So spoilers abound on social media, but if you obviously are waiting for your physical copy, it is on the way, and I think people will be very happy with that. Tim and Mark did a great job with the script. So let's see, this guy, OSIG dump account, picked up Soulfinder, loved it. Thank you very much. Appreciate that if you're watching. And one more kind of a very brief preview of Noctis Terrores. You can see old Blackfire there taking a bite out of Father Redder's arm at some point in the story. And you can see that it's a spiritual bite of sorts. And he's not really in the dream world here. I guess spoiler. So I don't even, well, again, the Noctis Terrores, he's not in the Night Terror anymore, but Blackfire is still continuing to mess with him. So over and over again, this guy, he cannot escape the demons. They're just constantly messing with him, constantly trying to take a bite out of his arm or his leg or his, shoulders, everything. RPX, thanks for tuning in. Happy Friday to you as well. So I will continue to, even though it's a short story, I will try and find ways to give little glimpses. I'll try and talk about things for people that are interested in that. All right, so I think we got through all the iconic comic stuff, and then the only thing today that I really wanted to talk about is this border situation. And I guess we could stick on the snakes in the grass in Washington, D.C., the swamp. So as many of you know, Texas is putting up concertina wire. They essentially got the barbed wire. They're putting all sorts of barriers along the border because the border is absolute chaos. It's essentially anarchy. It has been for the past few years. Since President Biden came into office, he basically did a 180 on all of Trump's policies and was just like, yeah, the border is open. And then all of these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations and nonprofit organizations around the world started funding. And some people are like, yeah, including Catholic organizations. And yep, weirdly enough, there are Catholic organizations that, in my mind, they're, I don't want to say Catholic in name only, but they're, in many ways, they empower people that undermine the Catholic faith because they're like termites and they got inside and they're doing all sorts of strange things. But I digress. Anyway, these organizations around the world, they're shipping people from Yemen and Pakistan and Africa and just all over the place, all sorts of parts of South America. They're shipping millions of people over the course of years now. They're just sending them, trying to flood the border. And the Biden administration is like, yeah, we're not really interested in actually controlling the flow of quote unquote migrants, quote unquote illegal immigrants. Just send them. And actually, the only thing we just want more money to process these people. That's all we care about. So they don't care. They're on record as saying they don't really care about border control. They just want money to process all the people that come here because they want as many as possible for a number of reasons. And so at some point in time, Texas got sick of this, and Governor Greg Abbott here essentially took matters into his own hands. And then the Biden administration started issuing ultimatums. They're going to the courts. They want to sue these states. They want to try and find all the way up to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court this week essentially says, like, yeah, the Biden administration should be able to take down the concertina wire and essentially undo the border security that Texas has put into place to try and stop the madness. So I was talking to a friend of mine recently about how all of these problems are bigger than just one person. So if you're putting all of your faith in the president of the United States, whoever that might be, if you're putting all your faith into a couple people in black robes on the U.S. Supreme Court, you're going to be let down because these institutions have been corrupted and they have cultural cancer within them that is metastasizing all throughout the quote unquote body politic. And it really comes down to we, the people, at this point in time, because the institutions are all poisoned. The institutions are all diseased, spiritually diseased. They have been poisoned by Blackfire and his minions, Satan and his minions. And so people with functioning moral compasses who have a reverence for our nation's founding principles, they are the ones that have to stand up at this time because the institutions will not do it for them. And I would even argue that how do I say it? The administrative class, the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., and the politicians are essentially completely divorced from our founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution. And they're Democrats in name only. So Joe Biden and the people that are controlling him, they're not really... A lot of older people think that the Democratic Party is the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy or whatnot. They're completely in the dark about what it is. So essentially, the modern Democrats, they murdered the old ideological Democrats, took their skin off, and now they're wearing it like a skin suit. And they're walking around trying to convince people. They use all the language and the rhetoric and the terminology of the old school Democrats and even Republicans, but that's not what they are. They are, in practice, all about this quote unquote New World Order, socialist, communist, but it's all under the guise of being for freedom and liberty and rights of the oppressed and this and that and the other thing. But when you actually look at what they're doing, it's about dismantling America as we have traditionally known it. And it's about destroying the pillars of the United States that have held it up and made it a great nation for so long. So they're essentially trying to tear everything down and then gaslighting people who are noticing and saying, hey, this is actually going to end in the destruction of the United States. They're like, no, you don't. The things that you are seeing are not what you're actually seeing. You're just seeing throngs of men in their 20s and 30s that are coming across the border. They don't even have families, a lot of them. They're just these angry looking young guys. And they actually have video of some of these individuals who are coming across, and they're like, you'll know who I am, blah, 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 blah. They're saying that they have hostile intentions to the press out in the public. And then so they will say that. And then an individual like yourself who are watching will be like, this guy, he's just literally saying he's a bad guy. He doesn't like the United States. Why would we want this guy? It almost seems like there are nations that are just sending their own prison populations to the United States. They're like, listen, we will let you go. We're going to give you a one-way ticket to Mexico, and then you're going to go to the border. Then you're going to the United States. Okay? We just don't want you to be raping people in Bolivia anymore. We just don't want you to be raping people in actually, I got to be careful what I say here. So anyway, all right, Mr. Murder McGee in Yemen, we're going to get you. We're going to let the prisons out. We're going to send you to Mexico, and then you could go to the United States. Do what we're washing our hands of you. This is great for us because we don't need to feed you anymore, and you're going to go in the United States, and we're all right. Good luck, buddy. And if they ask about you, we're going to tell them you're a really great guy. It's just between us that you're an axe murderer or something along those lines. RPX says, yeah, cartels. Yeah. So as I was saying in my own feed, let's see, is it in here? Blah, 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 blah. Imagine the federal government allowing total chaos. I'll bring it up here. Imagine the federal government allowing total chaos at the border for years. And then when a state finally takes matters into its own hands, the president starts issuing ultimatums and escalating a standoff with the state. I gotta be careful what I say here, but Texas, a lot of people, they're like, listen, Texas, if the federal government wants to keep escalating this and they want to go down a dark road, you're going to have literally millions of people from all over the United States that will happily go to the border and, whatever happens. They will be having people from Florida will be coming, people from Illinois will be coming, people from Nevada will be coming. All you have to do, Governor Abbott, is if the Biden administration wants to push it, if they want to go to bat for cartels, and if they want to go to bat for border anarchy, and if they want to take it to another level, say the word Governor Abbott, say, hey, if you are a patriotic American and you are fed up with all of this, come on down to Texas and let's just stand across from Uncle Sam and see what happens. Because it's a losing battle on the Biden administration's part, because again, they look like they're trying to dismantle border security, and they look like they are going to bat. They look like it because that's what they are doing. They are going to bat for drug cartels. They are going to bat for child sex traffickers. They are going to bat for lawlessness at the border. And so this is a losing proposition. If the Biden administration wants to go there, they're just going to look really, really, really bad, because there are millions of Americans that are just like, all right, it's game time. This is where it's been going the whole time, and we are just about there. There's a powder keg. Everyone's been saying it, and now Texas is like, all right, Biden, let's see, what are you going to do next? Are you going to fold? The Biden administration is fighting Texas harder than it's fought for anything else, which should tell people quite a bit. So homeless veterans, we're not gonna fight for them. Fentanyl drug, crisis in America or whatnot. We don't. Actually, we want more drugs coming through the border, because we want to continue to erode civil society. Because when you have all sorts of people that can't function and they can't think for themselves, then who do they depend on? They depend on Big Brother, because they are basically adult infants. And when you have adult infants, they turn towards mommy and daddy. And when the federal government wants to be your mommy and daddy and tell you what to do all the time, you just got to sell your soul. And then they'll just, they could give you whatever you want, but they could also take it away in an instant. And usually what they're giving you is not very much. They give you just enough to, survive or get by. The federal government is like a drug dealer. And the drug is dependence. So they continue to whittle away at each individual's spirit, their entrepreneurial spirit, and critical thinking skills and all sorts of things. And they just get you to this place where you're like, it feels so good when someone takes care of me. It's like I'm in my mother's womb again or something. I love this. But really, you're like one of these batteries in the Matrix, and you're just there to power Washington, D.C. and all of these psychopaths that they just want to plunder the blood, sweat, and treasure of Americans, and so they could live high on the hog, and they could live in their gated communities, and they could go to wine country, and they could have their bizarro orgies in the Capitol in Washington, D.C. Sorry to get graphic there, but we know for a fact that they are doing all sorts of weirdo sexual stuff in the Capitol. That video came out, if you haven't seen that, and we've known this eyes wide shut type of stuff going on in Washington, D.C. These people are all degenerate perverts, high on their own ego. They're all, they idolize themselves. They will sacrifice America at the altar of self. And they're all about themselves. Narcissists, narcissistic sociopaths. I'm not even saying that just like, they're narcissists. No, that literally a lot of these people, they're psychopaths, they're sociopaths, and they're narcissists. So let's see. Neostar Productions, thanks for tuning in. Mr. X, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. So yeah, I am very interested to see where this standoff goes, but I am fully behind Texas, and I hope they do not give in. I hope that they continue to stand their ground. See any other bloop, 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 bloop. All right, America, let's go to Father Abernathy here. He has some good. You are suffering attack, America. This is an opportunity to show your ability to stand for the good like a soldier, a chance to distinguish yourself when the enemy attacks. Let the enemy strike. You stand steadfastly for the good. You should even say this aloud. I will not change my intention and decision one iota. I want nothing of what the enemy is suggesting. Let's see. Saint Theophan the Recluse. And Father Abernathy goes on. I want, let's see, name each thing he suggests one by one, renouncing and cursing it, call on the Lord for help. Everything will pass. So, yeah, we are in spiritual warfare, and there are people that want to gut the spirit of America. Don't let them do it. Texas, stand your ground. Stand your ground. Richard the Fox, talking to Neostar. Appreciate that. All right. I think that's pretty much everything. I don't want to talk just to hear myself talk. I said basically what I had to say. If you're just tuning in now, like I said, boop. I will continue to put out little previews with writing here and there from Soulfinder Volume 4 and Soulfinder Noctis Terrores. I want you to see Matt Weldon's art. I want you to see Eric Canetti's art. I want you to see my writing. And I want you to make an informed decision on whether you want to continue to support the Soulfinder series and Iconic Comics as a whole. So thank you to everybody that's tuned in today. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're not going to go too much longer here. I will be back most likely next week. I'm sure some more stories will pile up that are worth talking about, and I'll probably have some more previews, both of Soulfinder Volume 4 and Soulfinder Noctis Terrores. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you later. Have a safe weekend, safe travels if you're out on the road. See ya.